Aye.
Well, thank you for sitting in on the Open Space Greenways agenda meeting for tonight. And we'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if you look at the package that's in front of you, there's quite a bit. Let me go over it very quickly. First of all, we have the approval of the February minutes. If you have any that I sent out, do you have any changes or deletions or additions, or if not, we'll suggest approval. Bert, anything for as far as changes?
I move that we approve the February minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Are there any, anybody have any changes or revisions, additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I have one, and that would be the addition of regular meeting date and time for the coming year, and make sure that we're on record as having, if we want to go with the same first Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m., I would move to add that as an agenda item.
Okay, let's add it as, okay, we'll have that as an agenda item, and I'll put it on, let me see, we'll get the agenda here. Okay, let's put it down, how about right after public comments?
Perfect.
Meeting time. Any other changes or additions? If not, we'll proceed with the reports from the various activities and the liaisons. First of all, from the high school, Liliana.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Second. No, we need to.
Okay. So moved. Okay,
Second by Bill.
yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anything, as far as the high school is concerned, Liliana?
The Environmental Awareness Committee advisor, Ms. Gowie, she has some concerns with what we were proposing to be an Earth Day assembly with a meteorologist that was working with the Nature and Land Conservancy. She has some concerns about our COVID protocols because we're still practicing social distancing in school, and we haven't had an assembly all year, and they are and she's worried that we wouldn't be able to. With our recent changes in policies, just within the past 2 weeks, we've started going mask optional, so it's something that's going to need to be brought up to our principal to see if our policies are starting to allow assemblies like that, and if we can, then we might be able to get something together quickly. But up until this point, that kind of assembly with the climate change wouldn't be, I don't know.
Right, yeah,
able to happen.
I had heard that that the schools are not allowing visitors,
Yeah.
still, so we were, kind of understanding we're in sort of a limbo, and, Paul Gross, who is the meteorologist that we've been working with, his schedule it's very, it's not real definite, so he, you know, we alerted him that this might happen, and he said he might be able to make it, so it seems like everything is in flux, so we'll just stay in touch.
Okay. Other than that, I know our National Honor Society, people, like all our members, especially with the end of the year coming, everyone's really trying to find ways to get more service hours. So I don't know where the Adopt a Trail program stands right now, but I remember that was something we talked about in the last meeting. If we could get together some kind of plan for that, so I can present it at the next NHS meeting. That would be, I don't know, that could be really good, and we could get something going this spring. Same thing for the bat boxes.
Why don't we do this, as far as Adopt a Trail, do we want to discuss it tonight? Should we add that as another addition to our agenda? Or should we put that on the next agenda?
We might have it on the, some of our goals for 2022 and 23. So since we're still in that cycle, we still may be able to do that this year and then carry it over. Because it's also part of our 5-year plan that we had proposed and done. The other question I might ask Liliana is if, when you're looking at Earth Day, if there might be some outdoor activities that people could socially distance, and they could do maybe like a campus cleanup, or they could clean up the woods by the schools. And, you know, it's not just the high school, it could also be the elementary schools or the middle school. That, you know, it could be an all day, since Earth Day is, should be every day, but Earth Day is certainly a international holiday, and it's something that we could consider.
Yeah, you know, that's a great idea. I'll bring it up because our next Environmental Awareness Club meeting is tomorrow. So I'll definitely bring that up. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Earth Day is, it's a school day this year, Friday.
April 22nd,
April
right?
22nd.
Yep.
Anything else, Liliana? Okay, well, thank you very much. The next item is the township. Carl?
2 matters, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. The first is John Keim has advised that they are going to be working on the Ferry gauge trail, the connector. Hopefully the weather will be permitting, and we won't have the same issues we were dogged with all of last year with too much rain, too much mud. They do have everything staged and ready to go. The second thing is, as you noted in your report last month, Mr. Keim had laid the wood chips, and my understanding from speaking with Teresa, and I would defer to her because John and the DPS were going to dig the drain out with funding from Wayne County drain funds that are ours, but I think Teresa, you could probably give us a better update on that.
Out some pictures of where we were with an update on the clean out of the drain. So they were able to get I guess you would call it a excavator machine back in the woods at the drain, and they did start. Looks like they had some mechanical difficulties, and the repair last I looked was ongoing, but they may have got it back working since then. And but as the snow was melting, the good news was they did get enough drained out where the flooding on Manchester was prevented. So there's some pictures that I took during that time frame with a little update that I sent out before the meeting. I don't think there's any way to throw it up on the screen, or I would, but anyway, yes, it's ongoing.
You want to put those on the overhead on Elmo? I can do that for you if you want.
Elmo.
Elmo's our overhead projector here, or
Yeah, I didn't print it out, so I just have it
Okay.
on my phone.
On your laptop, yeah.
sorry. And that concludes my report.
Bert, the Grosse Nature Land Conservancy.
Okay, what I have to report is that the photo contest sponsored by Grosse Nature and Land Conservancy called Take It Outside for high school students is happening right now. The deadline to submit photos is Thursday, May 5th at 11:59 p.m. There's 3 categories and cash prizes, and we encourage all high school students to participate. Next thing coming up is our next environmental education event is Saturday, March 19th at 1:00 p.m. It's called Pools, Puddles, and Ponds, and that's in Meridian Woods. And then we are partnering with St. James Church to host an Earth Day event on Saturday, April 23rd. And so plans are in the works for that. And then, hopefully, if things work out, something with the high school. So the community event will be on the Saturday. And that's about it.
Thank you very much, Bert. Recreation. Kyle?
Sure. So I might ask for some time at the end here, but this will be my last meeting as your recreation liaison. My last recreation meeting will be March 9th, next week, Wednesday at 5 o'clock. We're having our second child, so I've been pretty bad just with one child, so I don't know how I'm going to do it with 2, and I've decided it's time to step down. And my 3-year term's up. They asked me if I want to do another one. I decided not to. So I'm a little sorry about that. I really do enjoy being here, knowing all of you. I've learned a lot. But yeah, I'll talk more about that later. So the recreation meeting on March 9th will approve the annual budget for rec, similar to you all as you're doing your annual report and everything. Kim O'Farrell's been doing an incredible job, I think, at getting rec under, just making sure that what comes in is more than what goes out, and lots to figure out to make that happen. But yeah, that'll all be, approved then. And I personally will be bringing forth a vote on Sunrise Park, the Grosse Nature and Land Conservancy. Bert, you're welcome to add to this as well. I don't know how involved you've been, but I've been in touch with Peter Kantz, and they've wanted to improve Sunrise Park for some time, including an observation deck and a bathroom. It's been a lot of reasons why that hasn't moved forward. But the Rec Commission hasn't voted specifically on that yet, and I just want to bring it up for a vote on my last thing. So I think, just to be very honest, Mr. Naidu, the treasurer, is not going to vote in favor of it. I understand why. There's no way to maintain it currently, but my hope is by bringing it forth for a vote, we'll have at least the Rec Commission on record, and I don't think it'll get built this year. So is by 2023 at least have a plan to move forward. And even if the observation deck and the bathroom is not approved or not moved forward, I do think there's things that need to be worked out that this is bringing up, including better signage, like a crosswalk that we'd have to work with Wayne County on. So again, it's a little tough for me to bring up something that our township representative is not necessarily in favor of, but I think it's important because the Grosse Nature and Land Conservancy has $80,000 that is earmarked to do this. It's money that I would like to use and think would be good for a lot of different reasons, including that it's a good thing for us to show to the county and the state as we still need our bridge to be maintained. But anyway, that's something that I'm personally going to be asking for in the next meeting. But yeah, happy to talk about that or anything else, and of course we'll encourage Rec to appoint someone else to be the liaison as I resign. Yeah.
We enjoyed having you, and hopefully your committee will select somebody to step down to join us as the liaison from the Recreation Committee.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
One question, do we know if we're having a boy or a girl?
Another boy. We'll have 2 boys running around soon, so that's another reason why I resigned. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So does that mean Cliff and Bill are in the hat for names, or where do we go with that?
We have Jonas. We're going to call him Jonas.
Jonas?
Yeah, Jonas Beck.
Congratulations.
Jonas Beck DeBeausset.
75 years ago, that question would never be asked because nobody knew.
That's true. Yes,
Well, congratulations.
thank you.
Very much so.
Very excited.
Okay, anything else, Kyle?
Not for the moment, but maybe towards the end as we do our last comments, I might say a little bit more. So thank you.
Sure, okay. Pam, welcome back.
Thank you, and I'm not a substitute. I'm the real thing.
Yes.
Well, I was taking a very conservative approach here. And when I saw you tonight, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I didn't think you'd make it.
Well, I'm on the road to recovery, almost 100%, but I'm not quite there, but I'm working towards that.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And
Good to be.
it's good to see that you made it through this travail of the broken hip and
Yeah.
so forth, Pam.
On the mend.
Good.
Just wanted to mention that with Beautification Committee, 48 years ago, I went to Dewey Henry, who was the supervisor back then, complaining about all the litter in bottles and cans that were along our main roads. And he said, well, why don't you do something about it? So I formed the Island Beautification Committee, and we had litter patrols. This was pre-bottle bill. And I worked on passing the bottle bill in Michigan because Oregon had beaten us to it. And I wore around my neck a broken beer bottle that Walker Morrow had put into his little lapidary gadget and polished it. So I wore that around as a symbol of needing to pass the bottle and can law, and it passed in either 74 or 75. But our beautification committee did litter patrol, and we counted over 4,000 bottles and cans thrown out of windows along Meridian Road and Parkway. And I can't believe that now, because when I drive down Parkway, it's practically litter-free. Jack reminded me as we drove off the island, and there was so little litter along Parkway, that the boaters haven't arrived at the marina yet. And that's where some of the trash comes from, out the window or blows out of the boats. But we're certainly benefiting from passing the bottle bill back in 74 or 5. With Beautification Committee, we're down to just 3 members, and I'm hoping that we can recruit some more members. Irma Slimko and her sister have been doing a superhuman job with the northeast corner, keeping it planted and cleaned up and weed-free, and that's all volunteer. And then Michelle Babcock, who lives on the north end, she's been maintaining a planter up there and keeping that looking nice. So luckily, we're not as active as we were when we had Art Kester, who would constantly weed and care for our beds. But we're doing the best we can. And Brian Medved is our chair. We haven't met since the pandemic hit us, but we're planning to get up and running in the next month or so.
Oh, that's great.
And maintain the 4 corners. Luckily, we have Carl Moore, who has the landscape company, and he does a lot of the sprucing up of 4 corners.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good. Okay, well, Pam, welcome back. Thank you very much for that report. Anything else?
That's basically it.
Okay.
Chairman, I had something I wanted to add. I remember, I think I was about 16 when you started, Pam, and I remember when you had the 55-gallon drums that were put out for Keep the Island Clean. They have the green paint on the side and Kick Core on on the side of it, and I think you got those from the Chrysler plant, and you have been just a huge force in terms of, now we have the blue barrels. When I was on DPS or DPW then, we had the court workers that would come out. And Pam always managed to find the places on Lenny Island that needed to have the litter patrol. And I just think over all the years, Pam, you deserve a thank you. And your absence has reminded me that all the difference that you have made, and it's time to say thank you. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything that you have done to make Grosse litter-free and a better, more beautiful place to live. Thank you.
Here, here.
My roots are pretty deep here because we moved to Grosse in 1932. So this is my 90th year living and enjoying being an island resident. So my roots are pretty deep and my heart is in my home here.
Just wanted to say thank you, Pam, for everybody in the community. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
And you only have 8 generations before you catch up to the
To the-
deBeaussets, all right?
working on it.
Okay, last, I'm saddened to report that John Mayer, one of our committee members, has tendered his resignation effective today, so there is an opening in our committee for a full member. And if anybody is interested, all they have to do is prepare an application and give it to Margie Gape, who works in our administrative office, and then we will review it and select a replacement for John. The next item, of course, is the summary of the trail work, which I think we have talked about very briefly. Is there any additional items that you wanted to add, Teresa, as far as the, I think that's been covered by you as far as the trail work and the Meridian Trail. I think that has been covered, and of course the Ferry Trail is progressing along, and once we get those two, once we get the Ferry Trail finished, I strongly recommend that we have a trail opening party at the end of the trail. That trail has been in process for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. It's been a difficult process, primarily due to the weather, and then due to the COVID and everything else. So I think we're nearing the end of the work on the trails, and I think by late spring we'll be in pretty good shape. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, just the Manchester Woods, I know we spoke about it at the last meeting, that we probably need to talk to Tony Gray, because there are still some large trees down on the main trail that you access through on Meridian.
Oh, yes.
And then also on the connectors that go along the drainage ditch there. So I'm sure we should be looking at that so that when, you know, the weather does break, we're able to get more of those wood chips out and get them on the trail, and also then do some trail maintenance in that regard.
Yes, absolutely. We'll get in touch with Tony tomorrow morning. I'll call him and tell him to send somebody out there to remediate all, or get rid of all the trees that have fallen across the trail. And at this time, I'd like to say, as far as the tree issue is concerned on trails, or any trees that may fall on private property, or that, if you see a tree that has fallen or is in danger of falling along one of the open space trails or on private property, you can call Tony Gray direct at his phone in the Public Services Department, and he in turn will send one of our tree removal people out there to eliminate and remove those trees. So I'll take care of that with Tony. But in order to shorten things up, if anybody sees a trail that's fallen across the trail, don't hesitate to call Tony direct, and he will take care of it.
If I'm wondering about what you said about on private property, that doesn't,
Well, yeah. If a tree that's on open space falls on a private property, the resident can call Tony Gray direct and have that tree removed. Okay. There being nobody in the audience, there'll be no public comments. There was an item that we added called meeting times.
Correct, Mr.
Talk about that for a couple of minutes and we can make a decision on that.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. We're coming up on a new year for the township, a new year, meaning that we start April 1, 2022 and wind up March 31, 2023. I believe it to be good practice to establish a date and time for meetings for our months in the coming year, and I would propose that we continue to do the first Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. in the Merle Solomon Room.
I'd like to why don't you make that in form of a motion?
I move that we continue our agenda for the coming year from April 1, 2022 through March 31, 2023 by having our regular meetings scheduled at 7 p.m. on the first Tuesday of each month, excepting December where we normally have a holiday break, and I would propose that we vote on that.
Now, also, what we do have is there's a couple months in the summertime, June and July, where we do not have meetings.
I would propose then that our meetings be the first Tuesday of April, May, August, September, October, and November, and then January, February, and March of 2023.
All those in favor? Any discussion?
You need a second. Second. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Now, the next item is the finalization of the annual report, which we have to submit to the township, and also included in that will be the budget. So, Bill has prepared a draft from as far as the Open Space Committee, the annual report, and if it's all right with you folks, I would like to just go through this report. If we want to make any changes to it, we will consider that the official document. And under the status of the objectives. Okay. Is there any changes? In other words, we either achieved it or we didn't achieve it or it's in process. And
Mr. Chairman, we can go point by point if you'd like.
Sure. Let's go. Why don't you just take over and start over with the status of the objectives, read them off, and then we can decide whether we achieved them or not achieved them.
Again, part of our homework, I think, was to at least to look at these and maybe make some commentary, and so that's what we've done at this point. First one is continue surveillance and cleanup activities for all open spaces. We do know in the Ferry Woods, Manchester Woods, the Grosseille Woods, and the Wildlife Sanctuary, the trail cleanups were performed in 2021-22. That's also an ongoing activity. Obviously, if we know, since we've had tree falls and other wood chips put down, things of that nature, but I'd like to think that they were performed, and so that was a successful objective that we have met. Any question on that or any comment? Anything that needs to be added?
Put a note down there, if it's, make a motion that we say, grade that as achieved.
We've contacted Wayne.
Ongoing,
Yes,
ongoing, achieved. Okay,
we have contacted Wayne County to explore the possibility of cleaning out the drain through the Manchester Woods And we do know that as of February of this year, drain ditching maintenance by Detroit Graydall, which Teresa spoke to in terms of their machines out there, has begun as of this date and is currently underway.
Okay,
So we have contacted, that was achieved, and the work is underway.
comments? Okay,
Next one is construct a footbridge across the drain, that's the same drain in Manchester Woods, and construct a trail extension to East River Road. And again, commentary was after the completion of the drain ditching maintenance, which has begun, crossover point approximately midway on the ditch will be installed. We've talked about that under several of our meetings. And the trail extension has begun from East River Road. That's how Detroit Graydall got their backhoe and whatever else in there. And there had been a trail that was more of a deer trail or a foot trail that people have used over the years. But that has not been completed. It may be a goal for 2022-23.
want to mark that as this, either we achieved it or it's in process?
Well, we haven't really, other than the trail extension has actually just by default perhaps moving the heavy machinery in there.
I want to say not achieved,
Not achieved.
not achieved, planned for 2022, 2023.
Next one was improve the condition of existing open space trails by providing drainage and robust trail bases where necessary. We do know that extensive drainage work and robust trail bases have been completed on the Ferry Woods property, with additional work to be completed on the Manchester Woods and connectors. So Ferry Woods, and correct me, other fellow members, the robust trail bases and the drainage work, has it been fully completed or it's pretty close to completion?
I haven't been there since the last time I drove by, and there were mounds of wood chips.
Mr. Stevenson, the last time I walked that trail, the ditching that was done on the east side of the trail primarily, until we start descending down into the swale, was remarkably effective. I spoke with John Keim about that. He said that has made a big difference because it not only prevents water off of the shed that generally runs east to west, that hits the ditch, and we no longer have water pooling and accumulating and running across the trail. But the adjoining neighbor also dug a ditch out that remains largely intact, and that connects with the ditch that Campo Brothers did. So the ditching on that has been very, very effective. We do have gravel that has been marshaled and stored there for the culverts when John is able to finish that up. And John is able to do this work at a cost savings to the township and to this commission because it is much, much more cost effective for us to use John Keim at the hourly rate the DPW pays him, as opposed to having TNT do that. So their efforts are being redirected through Derek Thiel's office to take care of tree fall and deadfall in the rest of the trails. So John is able to do it for about a third of the cost, and it appears that TNT is prepared to go ahead and give us the same bang for our dollar, but they're going to do it with deadfall and trees over the trails, the leaners that you were talking about. But we're going to be able to go ahead and use John to do that for about a third. I think TNT owes us somewhere around $10,000 on the part of the contract that remains to be performed, and I know Derek was in contact with them so that they would be able to redirect that to the tree cutting and the kinds of issues that they're good at, while John Keim and the crew can continue to spread the chips at a much lower rate for us. So it's a win-win.
Oh, Bill, I have a question. I'm not sure, is Manchester Woods separate from Meridian Woods? Or, I mean, we used to call it Manchester Woods, that whole huge open space area. Okay,
It's Meridian Woods, I'm sorry.
okay. I wasn't sure if maybe there was something closer to Manchester.
No. I'm sorry, yep, that should be Meridian Woods, I'll correct that.
Let me get my thinking caps straight on your comments, Carl. You're saying that the TNT is going to redirect their activities to removal of the trees along the Ferry Trail, the ones that are in danger?
That would be for all the trails, not
All
just
the
Ferry, but so that when they have the expertise, the tools, the equipment, the personnel to remove trees and to cut the trees up and take care of that, that is something that the DPS is not equipped at this point to do efficiently. So Derek township manager, was redirecting those resources for TNT to take care of the trees. Pardon me. And the idea then is that when we have chips that we can spread, we can do it for about a third of the cost. And because the chips are free, that's going to help with this commission and all of our funding and maintenance.
So as far as the chip disbursement and the finishing off of the trail itself is going to be taken care of by the DPS?
That is correct.
And any trees that fall anywhere in the township are automatically redirected towards TNT?
Absolutely correct.
Continuing, about conduct 2 dump the junk programs, one in late spring and one in the fall. And again, I want to thank all the community members and all the members of the Open Space Greenways Committee for their good work this past fall. So we held a dump the junk on October 2nd, 2021 with more than 500 participants. And we'd like to look at another dump the junk, find a treasure event, maybe to be held in late May or even early June, depending on our schedule, and that would be something that we want to publicize and obviously set a date on pretty soon.
I think we should mark that activity as achieved. Okay.
And again, oh, go ahead.
I think that St. James is having the rummage sale, but it's in the first weekend of May, which is probably too early for us.
Oh, we want to stay away from that.
Well, it helps if we can, coordinate so that stuff that, I mean, if we could even do it earlier, which I don't think we can, so that stuff that doesn't get, get taken can go there, but.
One of the things we were certainly looking at was trying to contact other charities and places that, at the end of the day, okay, rather than just dispose of all this stuff or try to hustle and get that, we would coordinate with like Salvation Army or Habitat for Humanity or one of those to, to take the, the treasures away.
Right,
And so that
right.
That would be good.
Yeah, I think we need to line up a bunch of pickup
Yes,
trucks.
I agree.
Because they don't come, so maybe that would be something that the NHS students could, help with, at least the loading and,
The loading of the trucks and that.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Depending on who we go with, or who might be more than one.
Right.
And again, where it says open space for possible procurement, given current balance of $150,000. So, I don't think we haven't reviewed as of late that I'm aware of, and perhaps, does anybody know of
No,
some open spaces that we're looking to procure?
$150,000, the funds are rather limited, and the only thing we could do is maybe buy a small piece of property, but I think what we will do is use that as more or less a savings account or something like that. If something should come up, a small lot that we'd want to buy, I think we should just leave it in the account, and if something comes up where a person wants to maybe sell their property, the vacant property, to the Open Space Committee, that money will be available. So we didn't achieve it, but I think that the money should be left where it's at for any future purchases that might come up in that price range.
Just a thought, commission members, do we think that, should we have maybe a subcommittee look at that possibility in terms of like spaces or lots that may be available? I mean, I'm all for, one of the biggest things, concerns that we have is that we have to maintain what we have, and that's a concern. So rather than saying, oh, let's go out and buy more, well, we want to take care of what we have, and I think that's a critical piece that we're looking at. But I don't know if we would want to get a subcommittee to go, or just that's something that we, as Cliff said, you want to just carry that money over and look at that.
I think my personal feeling is the fact that we seem to be, and this is just personal comments, evolving from a fact of where we have spent a great deal of time on purchasing additional properties, and over the period of years we have acquired over 600 acres of land, and I think we're kind of drifting towards a policy whereby we're not really looking for additional property, but trying to concentrate on doing a better job of taking care of the property we have. So that's just something I've been thinking about for some time. So I think we should maybe just leave it as it is. Just leave it there, and if something comes up, at least we have $150,000 to look at it. And if something does come up where it's more than that, then of course we'll have to go out for an election, to increase the millage or to reactivate the millage to buy that property.
Any other questions on the status of the objectives for 2021-22? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the proposed objectives for 2022-23. And again, some of these we've talked about, or they've already been in our 5-year plan. So one of the things that we were looking at is to remediate the Manchester Woods drain. And again, that may be the Meridian Woods drain. That's undergoing, and that will, I would suspect that will take place within the next month or two, that work will be complete.
I think we should leave it as it is, for next year. Okay?
Well, it begins April 1st.
Oh.
So if it gets done, it gets done, right?
Right.
The next one is conduct 2 dump the junk events. So we will have one in sometime in the spring, if you would,
Right.
and then another one in the fall. Any question on that? Another proposed objective that was given to us, or at least we have, is address the millage for open space maintenance budget.
That is, right now, we have, in our maintenance budget, we have about $180,000 in the maintenance budget for the open space program, for maintaining the trails and doing other work relating to maintenance activities. Carl, are we in a position where we should start the process of maybe preparing a millage proposal for that, or should we wait for another year?
I have concerns about doing it in 2022 in that the township has indicated that there will be 2 millages on the November ballot. Most likely, it hasn't been finalized yet, but one millage will be for fire department, for equipment and personnel, and to help them out of a continuing drain. They've been reaching into the rainy day fund for several years. There is a movement to have a millage put on the ballot in November for fire operations. And then the second thing is the DPS which now has had the road committee rolled into it, is looking at doing a millage for roads in November. That has not been finalized, but all you have to do is drive down East River between Church and Ferry and quickly realize that we really do need to have something on that. I anticipate that with the amount of road work that needs to be done, if the community is going to support any of those millages, it will be fire and road, perhaps road and fire, in that order. I do not see it as a realistic opportunity for us to do a mill. The theory being that if you have two strong millages and then that are viewed as necessary infrastructure, and if you have a third millage that is not as deemed as necessary for the community, I would not want to see that millage turned down for any reason. So I would respectfully suggest we go in 2023 with a millage as opposed to trying to have three millages pass all at the same time.
Let's do it this way. Let's move this out for another year.
That would be my recommendation, but if anybody else has a different
Now,
idea.
we're not, by doing that, based on our historical spending for maintenance activities, $180,000 will last us for, let's say, maybe 3 or 4 years at the very least, unless there's a major problem, and I can't see that coming up. So why don't we just make a note of that to hold off on that for this year, I mean for the year coming up, and revisit it next year.
I think that would be prudent, and again, recognizing that the state of Michigan has rolled your millages and your elections together so that you will have school and township millages rolling together at the same time, typically in November. This is an election year for the governor and some of the all the statewide offices. So I think you'll have a high turnout, but I do not like the idea of having our financial situation where we're on firm ground right now, having a millage that would frankly not be necessary at this time and to compete against fire and roads.
Look at it next year.
I think so.
Okay. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, yes. Another maybe proposed objective for 2022, 2023 is to introduce the Adopt a Trail, Adopt a Plot program that we talked about in several meetings here for community groups to monitor and maintain open space properties. So, we work in conjunction with the Grosse-Ile Nature and Land Conservancy, but also Rotary or Kiwanis or school groups certainly could be involved in that. And they could also be duly noted that that's their plot, that's their trail that they're responsible for and, want to help to maintain. So we've talked about that, and I don't know if we want to look at that as an objective that we seek for this year and the next coming years.
I have no problem with that.
Well, if we do pursue that, I think it would be a good idea to combine it with conservancy properties, and so, I mean, years ago, we had talked about Friends of Grosse-Ile Natural Areas, so.
Right.
Because it's pretty indistinguishable for the public.
So could we even name it Friends of Grosse-Ile Natural Areas and then, adopt a trail, adopt a plot? I mean, we can, what we call it. Yes. But again, do you think it's a worthwhile objective for this year and the next? Yeah, I think, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, just having eyes out there and is helpful.
The next one is expand access to the Thoroughfare Canal via the Manor Woods cutaways on both the east and west side across from Lowry. So this has already been done when they were doing some of the sewer work and the pipe bursting on Meridian. So there already have been some natural, or at least some man-made cuts already made to the canal. Certainly on the west side, that's a new one that goes to the canal between the private property that's there and the open space that's there. And then on the west side, it's the area that's adjacent to the bridge that goes over the canal. And I think we have access, at least through a right-of-way, to that portion. So how we, at least, even if we just keep it in its natural state, I know after the bulldozers have gone through, you've got a lot of churning up and a lot of, but that area is at least maybe as the grass grows and it moves into that, people would be more accessible, at least to like walking or riding their bikes or going across there, and they could have access to the canal. Now, what we do further on that might be another.
Bill, if I may address that for a moment, I have been in contact, was contacted by a scout master for the Scouts on Grosse, and she did a rendering of what a possible pocket park would look like on the north end of the bicycle pedestrian bridge that goes over the canal at Thoroughfare between Lowry and Ferry. And Ms. Budziak, I'm hoping I'm getting that right, is the scoutmaster, and one of the parents within the troop did a rendering on that shows that we could easily lay chips, steps, and go down to the area along the canal. During high water, there's a nice little lagoon in there, and it's very picturesque. My concern is that as we start progressing to a low water, that's going to dry out and certainly won't be as good. It's also complicated by the fact that Wayne County is in the planning stages of doing more road and bridge work on Grosse, and specifically that bridge over the canal. I don't know, when you drive by there, I invite you to take a look at how wide that thing is, because that's about 3 lanes from sidewalk to sidewalk. That bridge is going to be replaced. I don't know whether it's going to be this year, most likely in 2023. Anything on the north side of that might be used as a staging area. So again, we have the same situation. They may use the staging area that was done for the water lines that's on the west side south of the canal. That area presents an interesting challenge because while it has already been what's known as grubbed, and that is gone in and clear cut, that presents a real easy opportunity for us to lay a very thick, heavy wood chip trail almost to the water's edge. Mr. Thiel and I walked the area, excuse me, Township Manager Thiel and I walked the area, and there is a need to do some work because there is a gully that separates the land on the east side of the canal where a trail would go that would require some kind of minor bridging or a culvert or something like that. And when the weather clears, we can take a look at that. But that would be very possible even with a floating dock. Now, the good news is I also sit on the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission and was contacted by a resident's family. They want to make a sizable donation. And I spoke with one half of the family today, and he indicated to me that they have intent with their GoFundMe page to make a donation to the township for specific projects. One of those projects being the area that you're talking about west of Meridian. And when the idea came up, how do we make the transition from the bicycle path into the open space and township property? Brian Pollack happens to be the chair of BPAC, and he's also Wayne County's guru for bicycle, pedestrian, sidewalks. And we're going to be having a conversation, but that can be done very easily, very cheaply. The family is very interested in having this work done as a memorial to a family member that recently passed. And they have raised, as I understand it, $30,000 and expect to raise more. Those two projects are on their radar, as is an extension of the bike path from Grow Road down to the Detroit River International Wildlife Center, and that is a project they're also interested in. So if money is the lifeblood of any project, we have people out there that are interested in making that possible. So that is a project, just to give everybody an update. The project on the canal west of Meridian, just across from Lowry, is interesting in that the township owns a segment of property. If you think of the old French ribbon style farms, that runs back from there to the canal, and then open space has adjoining property on that as well. And frankly, I haven't walked back there to determine where the township property is and where the open space property is, but that is eminently doable. And it's in excellent shape to do something with that this year.
This corner is rather all encompassing, but would that, in other words, with the statement here about the expand the access to Thoroughfare Canal via Meridian Woods, could that be construed as including the areas that you're talking about as well?
I am not sure where Manor Woods is on that, but Bill, from your description, I'm understanding when you said the area that's been grubbed out, that's what I'm
Thought that
understanding
was
we're looking
Manor
at.
Woods.
Yeah. Okay, all right. We'll leave that as is then. Any problem with that? Does that cover what you're addressing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
And then lastly, work with the Grosse Township schools, and again, that's K through 12, in establishing bat house placements in select areas, perhaps, open space areas adjacent to the schools, and planting butterfly gardens in open space areas. That's in our 5-year plan, I know, that we've talked about. And it could-
That's something that can be done in conjunction with the Nature Land Conservancy? We can do it on the open spaces? Any thoughts on that?
It's possible. I was talking with Erin Parker, who is the head of our education committee, and she's currently works for the Huron-Clinton Metro Parks. There's some question about the effectiveness of bat houses, and so I think that needs to be explored a little bit more. They seem to be more effective if you're trying to get them out of a building, and then there's a bat house that they can move into right there. But if you put them up on trees, there's issues with predators, that can access them and stuff. So because I did make some inquiries with her. I know that was something that when I was working at DT Energy, we put up a lot of bat houses, and we had one on our house, and it was a lot of enthusiasm, but not always a lot of results.
And we should, do we want to revise this last statement or eliminate it or?
We could do, you can investigate.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
come back.
Yeah, I think investigation.
Let's leave it in, and you probably use the word investigate, okay?
And that might be something that the High School Environmental Awareness Club might want to look into.
Cliff, can I add something? Bill, I used to live in the area of the Thoroughfare Canal down there on Hickory Circle. And I had brought up in the past the opportunity to have a trail from Meridian Road down to the waterfront, to the canal. And so people that live inland would have access to a waterfront walk and maybe an observation platform there so they could look over the Thoroughfare Canal. But I ran into some opposition from some of the residents there, didn't want strangers walking so close to their property. I'm hoping we can avoid that problem area, but I would love to see a trail from Meridian, from the bike trail to an observation deck on the Thoroughfare Canal, because a lot of people live inland and don't have access to a waterfront. So I'm hoping that we can fulfill that trail from to the canal.
I think that's the area that Carl was talking about too, that on either side of Meridian Road, okay? There, one is on the west side, the other one's on the east side. You're talking about the east side, I think. Yes, but that, I think it exists.
There are huge open areas now where they've done construction.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we leave that in as it is, and the best way to decide is to propose a trail and an observation area, and to determine exactly what it's going to cost, and then see what the public thinks about that proposal. In other words, they were opposed to it, I think it was 10 or 12 years ago when we tried that, so it might be well just to, what you're really saying, I think, is go after it again. That's what you're saying. Is it worth trying to do it?
And it is open space. It's not like it's private property.
Oh, I know that, yeah. Well, let's try it, see if we run into a lot of opposition. We have to, sometimes we have to concede, but to agree with the public in general as to whether they feel that type of development has any downsides to it, downsizing or disadvantages. Sadly, the only way to do that is to propose it to the public.
If I may quickly, Bert, you know more about this than I do. I don't know about bat houses and their effectiveness, but I know one thing we've been looking at, or I've been looking at for Westcroft, is owl boxes. So I don't know if that's something as a replacement, but I will just say, yeah, on many different levels, there's birders have, I don't know, I'm going to call it an obsession with owls, but that brings people that want to see things. But more importantly for me, I've found that owls are very good at controlling mice, rabbits, etc. And I would assume, I don't know, I'd have to do more research into it, but I think you've all seen we've had more coyotes kind of coming out in different weird ways, but part of that is vermin, including mice and rabbits. So I don't know. I'd hope that more owl encouragement could help kind of balance some of our issues, but that could be a replacement for bat houses, I would suggest.
One of the things I have to deal with here is that the annual report is due in the township by the end of this month. So why don't you, if you can take these, the comments we made tonight and consider this a final report.
Yes, I can do that.
And we'll give it to Brian Friel. Say, this is our goals and objectives, this is what we did, this is what we achieved, and this is what we plan to do next year. So can you do that for us? Okay. All right. Now the next thing we have to do, along with the goals and objectives, in your package, is something called the Open Space Maintenance Budget. I want you to read. This is kind of it's not a budget as much as it is a planned spending activity for the following year for open space maintenance items. And as you can see, we've got, it says we have $175,000 in the fund right now. We have $180,000. So what I can do is I can take, this is the budget that we had for last year, this is what we have spent to date, and for the proposed budget for the 2023 item, again, I'm running into some timing problems. I have to have this ready for tomorrow. So why don't I just put in another $40,000 or $50,000 for next year for 22-23, and list the monies in some, in the categories indicated, and with the understanding that this is our planned spending, and that we're not necessarily tied in with, like, spending $15,000 for one item in the budget and ending up having to spend 20, or having $20,000 in one line item and only spending 15. So, unless you have some ideas as to where the proposed funding should go for next year. But,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say
Yeah.
too.
yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, so you're saying the maintenance cost for the dump the junk program should go up? I totally agree with that. And the tree cutting, where do we have that? That's second item. Trail maintenance. Trail maintenance, that's $15,000. Okay, so those three items that we had for, again, the dump the junk program, increase that, increase the trail maintenance and upgrade, and increase the new trails for Ferry Road in Manchester.
Aggressive, I would think, with signs, if we do adopt a trail and that sort of thing.
Signage?
Probably gonna have more signage, and a couple of them look pretty ratty out there. So I would go up on that as well.
If I may, I know I watch a lot of these videos, so I just want to speak out what I'm looking at for people that might be watching this. The budget for the last fiscal year was $52,600, and all that was spent was $26,280, which to me is good. You know, you see
Well,
less
it's,
spent than
yeah.
was there, but yeah, and then part of what we're talking about is, yeah, I agree with I saw that the tree cutting, I assume that's going to continue to be at around that level, so just increasing that, and I don't know where else to take from, but that seems like the one
That's right.
to increase, yeah. Mhm.
Please understand this, that this is, to call this a budget, it's more or less nothing more than a spending plan. If something happens whereby we have to spend more than what we had planned for a line item, we can do that very easily. But I will address the four items again. The dump the junk, the trail maintenance and upgrade, trail signs, and the new trails for Ferry Road in Manchester.
And sorry, Carl just corrected me, this is true, so I said 26,000, but estimated for the fiscal year will be at 43,000, so it'd be $10,000 under budget, which is still good, so thank you for correcting me, Carl.
So I'll make those adjustments and,
I just have a question on the new trails for Ferry Road in Manchester.
yes.
Have we already, I'm looking at the actual, we've spent $4,500, and then we're looking at $11,000 for February and March, estimated? Is that mainly for Ferry Road?
For Ferry and for, yes, primarily for Ferry Road
Ferry.
and for Manchester as
Right.
well.
But has a lot of that work been completed or not?
A great deal of it has, so maybe, I think what you're getting to is that maybe next year we don't have to put as much money into it. Okay, well, we'll reduce it down then, you know, that's not a problem. Okay,
Bill, that number should come down too with the idea that we're going to use DPS
Yes.
as opposed to TNT for some of that project, so hopefully that'll
Yeah.
reduce it, I'm hoping by half anyway.
now, one of the things that when DPS does work for us, what they usually do from a finance point of view, they, at the end of the year, they add up all the hours and the time it's spent on working on open space related programs and allocate a lump sum for those items. So that's the way they work it. So, okay, I'll make those changes that we've talked about tonight, and I'll get this report back to Ann Darsnick tomorrow morning. Okay, and make sure that everybody gets copies of it. Okay, and thank you, thank you, Bill, for your work on the goals and objectives and on the annual report. Now, the next item, of course, is the election of a chairperson. I indicated at the meeting last month that I would be interested in stepping down as chair of the committee after 20-some years. It's been a pleasure working with you folks. I've enjoyed it. There were times when things got a little bit dicey, but it happens all the time. And so just a little story of how I got the job. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't ever come to a meeting late, especially one in which Pam Frucci is involved. So that's how I think it was 2000 that this happened. So at this point, I would like to open up the discussion for the election of a new chair, and those people that might be interested in it, if they could indicate it, and then we could, I'm going to ask, do we need a secret ballot on this, or should we do it just by
No,
hand?
sir, I think under the Open Meetings Act, everything starts out with No, sir, under the Open Meetings Act, everything starts out with the presumption that we're going to do our votes in deliberation in public, and I would encourage that we continue to do that tonight. And my feeling is if we can't say it in public, we should probably not say it in private. I feel very strongly about that, and I would encourage to have a public vote on this. So,
Have it now, or do you want to?
let's do it now.
Before we vote, I would say I made the right choice in having you step up. You've served us well.
Anybody interested in accepting the position of chairman?
I'd like to nominate Bill Stevenson.
Anybody else?
At least she got you while you were here.
On time.
Teresa, are you interested? Teresa, are you interested? Assuming that's a no, then a hard no? Okay.
Pam, I don't think you'd.
No, I don't think I'm the one, but
Okay. All right.
Bert, as I understand it, you're with you have a potential conflict if we were to be doing anything with Conservancy, your role there, is that possible? Or?
Well, I hesitate to say that I was term limited from the board of the Conservancy, so I'm off, but I also do not want to be the chair of Open Space. Especially because we have a very worthy candidate, so.
Bill, we're running out of options.
Well, Liliana is going to be a graduate, okay. But I'm sure she will be going off to college here pretty soon, so.
Could I make a motion?
That's pretty good.
Should I make a motion that we select Bill Stevenson as the new chair of the Open Space Committee?
I second it.
seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Bill.
Thank you.
And
Historic.
I'll talk to you privately after.
Yes, thank you.
Bill, does Andrea know what you're getting into?
No. She will now.
Thank you,
But again,
Andrea.
thank you. It's first off, it's an honor to serve on this committee and to serve with such great people as yourselves. And Cliff, I just want to, on behalf of this entire commission, want to thank you for all your good work that has helped to make Grosse-Ile the place that it is today, and such a great, special place to live.
It's been a pleasure. I think if anybody who is a resident of Grosse-Ile, if they have the opportunity or the time to get involved with public service, I think they should take advantage of it, because there's I don't think people realize, the people that are not involved with township activities, what a wonderful, unique community this is, and what a pleasure it is to work and to live here. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Okay, so.
What, if I may interrupt, Mr. Chairman, one of our first orders of business is to replace John Mayer. And so one of the things I think that we will have to do is elicit or solicit responses from the community members to serve. Okay, so the applications are available at the Township Hall.
Okay, if there's any other comments, and I'll just start down at the end of the, Carl?
Nothing further on the agenda items. I just want to also share the comments made by Bill. Thank you, Cliff. I look at 22 years as the chair as remarkable. That's an incredible accomplishment. There are a lot of people that have told me they have moved to Grosse-Ile because, Pam, how clean it is, and Cliff, how green it is. And that's one of the reasons why John moved here. He had stated, and I have people I know, neighbors, and people that have become friends that spend a lot of time walking here, and they really love the open space. And I just want to thank you for your leadership, all of the time that you've put into this, the contacts you've had with TNT. And Cliff, it's just been a great experience for me. 5 years now working with you. I have learned a lot about open space. I have learned about procedures for acquiring it, maintaining it, and I just want to say thank you. I'm going to speak for a moment on behalf of the entire Township Board and say thank you for a job well done and for all of your time and for Pat sharing you with us. That's huge. Thank you.
Bravo.
I'll still be on the committee. I'll be a member just like you folks. I'm not going to be vocal. I'll just sit back and relax and do what I can. But I'll continue to contribute where I'm asked to.
Well, I have a thought on that, Cliff. Bill, I think your first act as chair ought to be able to appoint Cliff the duties that John Mayer is giving up.
No.
It's very good. Duly noted.
Right, Cliff doesn't have to do agendas anymore and all that, so everything else.
There's a lot to it, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. I talked to Jim Budney this morning, and Jim wants me to attend one of the township board meetings and make some comments. So I told him I'd check with you and do that. It won't be a half hour of blathering. It'll just be short and sweet. So I'll be doing that. And I just want to tell you personally, Bill, and professionally, that I'll always be here for you. And we'll spend some time together at your convenience, and so we can go through some of the paperwork and to get things squared away. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay.
Well, let it be said that the Grosse-Ile Nature and Land Conservancy some years ago recognized Cliff St. Pierre as Conservationist of the Year, and actually for 22 years, what he's done with for open space and for the township, because my husband and I moved to Grosse-Ile, and that was one of the reasons that the township had enough sense to tax themselves to purchase open space and maintain it in its natural state.
Conservancy of the Year sounds like a pretty high bar, Bill.
One day at a time.
Make a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Meeting's adjourned.
Excellent.